Greetings once again to all who can join us here for a brief reading taken from the work The Mystical City of God, otherwise known as the Divine Life of the Blessed Virgin Mary, revelations made to Venerable Mary of Agreda. And personally, I'm very grateful for this. I present it as important. That's why I'm doing this reading more than any other. I'm fully aware of the fact that most people will not be interested in this. Of course, I'm also aware of the fact that most people are going to hell. Those whose God grace shall touch shall very likely either be touched by this work, or after they have been touched by God's grace, will want to read this work and have it read to them. So with that in mind, I put it out there and do the reading for you to make it easy. How easy? Just put your phone on speakerphone, put it in your pocket, go about your business, drive where you need to go, and listen to it as you go about other things. That's quite easy, I think. So we're going sequentially through this book, which is the shortest of the abridged versions. There's 2 abridged versions that I know of. And then, of course, there's the original 4-volume set, which, of course, is many hundreds of pages, well over, thousands, really. So this is much shorter and is of more interest to more people, in my opinion. And it is very good. It's very well done. This work is translated from the French. And we pick up in the book where the revelation is about what happens after Our Lady makes her Holy Communion. And we begin. The Lord also willed that, in the Holy Communion, which she made each morning, the Holy Humanity should appear to her united with the Divinity in the Divine Person, in a manner more admirable and sublime than had yet happened. Then he turned towards his dear mother and said, quote, "Beloved mother, I will be always with thee during the time of thy mortal life, and in a particular manner, incomprehensible even to the angels. Thus I will be the recompense of thy exile." In the midst of these ineffable favors, the Holy Virgin retired into the most profound depths of her nothingness. May I repeat that? In the midst of these ineffable favors, the Blessed Virgin retired into the most profound depths of her nothingness. She blessed, praised, and thanked the Omnipotent, concentrating herself in the lowest estimate of her nature. She humbled and abased herself at the time that she was exalted, and thus rendered herself more worthy. She was still more enlightened and renewed in her faculties, to prepare her for the clear intuitive vision. The veil was drawn, and she beheld the infinite essence of God, and possessed for some hours the glory and happiness of heaven. in a degree greater than all the saints. Drinking thus of the waters of life at their very source, she satiated her inflamed desires, and arriving then at her center, the violence of her love was appeased, and she could return to communicate those graces to her children. After this ineffable prayer, she returned inexpressible thanksgivings to the most holy Trinity, and interceded most earnestly for the Church. Being carried back to her oratory, she there, according to custom, prostrated and humbled herself in a manner which no other child of Adam has done or ever will do. From that time until the hour of her happy death, she was raised into heaven every Sunday. There, her divine Son advanced to meet her, and the angelic choirs chanted the Regina Caeli Laetare, Alleluia, which is, O Queen of Heaven, rejoice, Alleluia. She asked advice on the most difficult affairs of the Church, interceded for all the faithful, but in particular for her dear apostles and disciples, and returned to earth like the richly laden vessels spoken of by Solomon in Proverbs 31. This special grace was granted to her because, when she had been conducted into heaven at the ascension of her divine Son, she had willingly deprived herself of the beatific vision in order to apply herself to the government of the Church. In her solicitude, the violence of her love diminished her strength, and it was therefore necessary that she should be ravished into heaven to receive additional strength for the government of the Church, to enable her to bear the excess of her love. And again, because when, each week, she commemorated the passion of her Son, she seemed, as it were, to die with him. Therefore it was necessary that she should rise again with him. And a footnote. Here we would remind those who think this too extraordinary to meditate a little on the miracle of the Mass, which is said every day and in every place. After a short reflection, we shall see that what we believe Jesus has done and is doing every day for us is no less marvelous than what he has been pleased to do for his mother, as we see in this quote-unquote mystical life. Chapter 45. Feasts celebrated by the Queen of Angels. All the brilliant titles which the Most Holy Virgin had in the Church, such as Queen, Sovereign, Mother, Guide, and Mistress, did not remain fruitless in her, for she exercised those offices with superabundant grace. As queen, she knew all her dignity. As sovereign, the extent of her empire. As mother, all the children and servants of her church, even to the end of the world. As guide, she knew those who walked with her. As mistress, she was filled with sovereign wisdom and possessed the fullness of that science by which the Holy Church should be governed and taught by means of her intercession. She had then a perfect knowledge of all the saints who had preceded, as well as those who were to come after her, with their actions, lives, death, and recompense. She knew clearly all the rites, ceremonies, and feasts that would be established by the Church in the course of time, together with the reasons, motives, and necessity for each. This fullness of knowledge produced in her a holy desire to emulate the thanksgiving, worship, veneration, and remembrance rendered by the angels and saints of the heavenly Jerusalem, and in order to introduce the same into the church militant, insofar as it could imitate the triumphant. She began the practice and also inspired the apostles to celebrate a great number of feasts. Although she had begun to celebrate many feasts from the time of the incarnation of the Word, yet from the ascension of her Son, forgive my fault, during the last years of her life, she kept them with greater solemnity. On the 8th of December of each year, she celebrated her Immaculate Conception, for which she felt she could never return sufficient thanks to God. She began the celebration on the eve of the feast and passed the night in most admirable exercises, shedding tears of joy. She made prostrations, acts of veneration, and canticles of praise to the Lord. She considered that she had been formed from the dust of the earth as a descendant of Adam, according to the universal law of nature, but that nevertheless she alone had been elected, delivered, and preserved from the common law, and thus exempted from the grave tribute of sin, and conceived with the plenitude of grace and supernatural gifts. She invited the angels to aid her in returning thanks and sang with them canticles of praise. She also invited the other blessed spirits and saints of heaven, and became so inflamed with love that it was necessary for her divine Son to descend from heaven to strengthen her He conducted her with him, and there she satisfied the ardor of her heart by humble thanksgiving. And there she satisfied the ardor of her heart by humble thanksgiving. The three divine persons rejoiced at having preserved her from the common contagion of the children of Adam. They ratified and confirmed the possession of all she had received, and a voice issuing from the divine throne said, quote, "Thy ways are beautiful, O daughter of the King, conceived without sin." End quote. Then the choirs of angels and saints sang the words, "Mary, conceived without original sin." The humble queen responded to all those favors with acts of praise and thanksgiving, with a humility so profound that it surpassed even the intelligence of the angels. Then she was elevated to the intuitive vision of God during several hours, and after descending from heaven, performed acts of the most profound humility. She celebrated the feast of her nativity on the 8th of September, the day on which she was born, but as usual, began her exercises on the preceding evening. She thanked the Most High for having been born to the light of the world and having had the happiness of being carried into heaven. She took an heroic resolution of employing all her life in the service of the Lord and the accomplishment of His will, and implored the aid of His grace that it might direct all her actions and make them tend to His greater glory. Her divine Son descended into her oratory with many choirs of angels, the ancient patriarchs, the prophets, and in particular, Saint Joachim, Saint Anne, and Saint Joseph, and they celebrated the nativity of the great Queen. She adored her divine Son with profound respect and veneration, and renewed her humble thanks. The angels sang, "Nativitas tua, Sancta Dei Genitrix Virgo." This is thy nativity, O Virgin, Holy Mother of God. And the patriarchs and prophets, with Adam and Eve, sang canticles to the glory of the reparatrix of the world. The divine Son raised his mother from the earth, on which she lay prostrate, placed her at his right, and manifested new mysteries to her. She was wholly transformed into her divine Son, and filled with an ardent desire to labor. St. John frequently participated in the joy of these festivals by hearing the angelic harmonies. The holy evangelist came to celebrate Mass in her oratory and communicated the great Queen, who was seated on the throne of her divine Son, whom she received under the sacramental species into her pure and inflamed heart. The view of these mysteries caused a new increase of joy to all the saints who assisted at this communion, the most worthy, after that of Christ, that has ever been or ever shall be made in the Church. After the great Queen had received her Son under the sacramental species, he caused her to become like to him in the adorable sacrament, and in this glorious and supernatural manner she returned into heaven. O hidden and admirable wonders of divine omnipotence! If God shows himself so great and admirable in all his saints, may we not think that he is much more so in regard to his Holy Mother? Moreover, she celebrated with the princes of heaven the remembrance of the benefits she had received, and invited them to aid her in returning thanks for them. Recognizing such profound science in their Queen, they sang, "Let thy Creator be eternally blessed and exalted, O Mary. Thou art the glory of the human race. Thou art the marvel of the power of the Word of God, the lively image of all his perfections. Thou art the worthy mistress of the Church militant, the particular glory of the Church triumphant, the honor of all creatures, reparatrix of thy race. Thou art worthy that all nations should acknowledge thy virtues and greatness, and that all generations should praise and bless thee." We will end here with 23 minutes in and continue our reading, God willing, tomorrow, speaking at first about the anniversary of her presentation in the temple, which we did in fact read about some chapters ago. Thanking all and asking God to bless all who have here participated with us in this reading of the mystical city of God. Thank you.